Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees win another series. They win their home opening series against the Toronto Blue Jays. They lose the home opener. They actually get shut out, and this was their first time getting shut out during a home opener since 1967, I believe, against the Red Sox. But they are able to bounce back with really good offensive performances after a real struggle in that first game. They're able to get 9 runs in game 2 and 8 runs in game 3, and a lot of contributing factors. But the person that comes to mind, and maybe there's some recency, is Giancarlo Stanton, who appears to be heating up. And we know how streaky he is. When he gets going, he can really carry a team. And the way he's doing it is good to see, too. Being able to hit fastballs, not only hit fastballs, but pull them with authority. Something that we didn't see really all of last season, or really most stretches once he got hurt, which was early on. So if he can stay healthy, we know what he's capable of. But he even had to doubt it a little bit. Obviously there was a lot of strikeouts, which we know is part of his game, but really it's a monstrous grand slam in this rubber game to win the series. So it's good to see. The heart of the lineup really was a huge reason for this series victory. I guess I want to discuss, because, look, they win the series. It's mostly it'll be more of a positive episode, but Jonathan Loáisiga, kind of out of nowhere, is out for the season. And he's a free agent after the season. So he may have thrown his last pitch as a Yankee. He's been with the Yankees. Maybe it feels this way, maybe it doesn't feel this way, but he's been with the Yankees for a while now. He debuted with the Yanks in 2018. So I actually want to confirm that, but I believe it to be true, where he came up, as a starter, but he's been hurt a lot. When he's been out there, he's been mainly very effective. Yeah, 2018 made, 9 appearances, 4 starts, and it wasn't great. And, they kind of kept him as a starter a little bit in 19, a little bit in 20, but really by the time the 2020 season was over, he was a full-time reliever. And from that season on, I'd say 2020 onward, he was a very important part of this pen, but just was never able to stay healthy. There was always something going on injury-wise for Loáisiga, and that's unfortunately what's going to end his season now. So he's not going to get Tommy John surgery. I think it's a UCL. I believe it was a UCL injury, which we're seeing a lot of across baseball, and it's going to keep him out the entire season. I think they said it's maybe a 10 to 12 month recovery. So, he might be ready for he may or may not be ready for the start of 2025. But the way we've seen these things go down before, I have to think this is probably it for him as a Yank, at least for now, right? Because, there could be a reunion down the line of some sort. That wouldn't shock me. But, sad to see him go. And as good as this bullpen has been, and it's been really good, I would say, for the last couple of years, even when they don't really have names, I think that they might run into some problems pitching-wise. It's going to be tough to keep it together because they're not really getting much length from their starters, especially with no Garrett Cole. That's why that injury is so important. They need length from their starting rotation because this pen it's kind of in rough shape. Now, you have Clay Holmes, who it's kind of, it can be cardiac Clay, but he's there, regardless of, it's not perfect, but he's healthy right now. Ian Hamilton, who did have a stinker, a rare one, and he's usually very relied upon. He didn't do so well in game 2. He's going to be a key piece. Caleb Ferguson's going to get important innings. Nick Birdie, is going to be thrust into important situations. So, we'll see. Luke Weaver and Jake Cousins are more long guys. Dennis Santana, he's someone that I think is probably going to pitch in somewhat high leverage situations, and Victor Gonzalez to a lesser degree. So, I think the Yankees are going to need their offense to really get going. And it's mainly done the good job. And what I like to see is that certain players are breaking out of it, as mentioned with Stanton. That's one of them. Aaron Judge is really this was I'd have to check the stats, but he had a pretty damn good series getting on base, hitting the ball with some authority. Juan Soto got on base a lot this series. He had a good one. Anthony Rizzo, same thing. So, Glaber, the numbers aren't there, but I think he'll be okay. So, Alex Verdugo's one that unfortunately is off to a slow start. What I love about him is he doesn't strike out. The thing is, though, a lot of soft contact. It's not as if he's really hitting the ball hard. It's weak contact regularly. So I would think the Yankees are facing three lefty starters in this coming Marlins series. Verdugo is sure to get a seat. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's tomorrow. And look, he's going to be the starter. It's just the point of, I believe he has started each of the first 10 games. And so he's due to sit. Maybe just a little bit of a reset could help him. But Anthony Volpe has been unbelievable. He has been really the Yankees' most consistent hitter so far. I mean, he's been a bright spot. It's kind of interesting. You look back at last year. I remember through the first 2 to 3 series, Glaber was the one that was putting out some pretty eye-popping numbers and ended up having a pretty good season offensively. Anthony Volpe, it's the way it's happening. It's opposite field hitting. It's not that much swing and miss. He has been, if there's one person you want to talk about in a positive light, he is probably your guy through 10 games. It's got to be Anthony Volpe. It's been consistent. So it's been great to see. But let's jump right into it. Blue Jays Yanks, big divisional series. This was actually the Yankees' first home series win against a division opponent since the tail end of the 2022 season. So they did not win a single series at home versus a division opponent last season. And it even dates back to the end of late September in 2022. So they finally get off the schneid, but it didn't look good as far as winning the series because they were shut out. It was a really nice outing for Kikuchi as well as Marcus Stroman. So starting pitching wise, Stroman has definitely been, and it's only 2 starts for each of the 5 starters, but Stroman has been pretty excellent. And that's a big, that's a big deal for him growing up a Yankee fan. And we know how he is with his theatrics, if you will. He's pretty calm on the mound, but everything else, he's a character at the very least. And you just wish that they could have given him some run support. He goes 6 scoreless innings, only allows 3 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, just really good stuff. He's allowed no earned runs in his first 12 innings as a Yank. So it's really good to see him do that. But the Yankees bats were really cold for this home opener, and Kikuchi was good. And as I had said, he's been better against the Yankees more recently. I do believe there were times dating back to his days with the Mariners where the Yankees got to him, but lately, not as much. And it's funny now. You look at this Yankee lineup, I like the Yankee lineups versus righties more than I do versus lefties, which may not have been the case. The Yankees have been a very right-handed heavy lineup, but now with Soto, Verdugo, Wells, and even some other, things thrown in there, little other variables, I just like that. I guess even as Waldo, throw him in there. I like the lineup a little bit more versus righties, and I even though Austin Wells' numbers aren't anything good at all, I like the at-bats. His at-bat quality is much better than Jose Trevino's. And then you got Oswaldo compared to Birdie. While I think Birdie will be a solid addition, good guy to have on the team, Oswaldo has been better than him. And so therefore, factoring all that in, Yankees might be a little bit better equipped versus righties, which is a good thing because there are more right. And we've talked about this on the other side of the spectrum. There are more right-handed starters and pitchers in baseball. So if there's one to be better in, it's probably that one. But anyway, Kikuchi, the southpaw, really did well versus the Yanks. There was no score in this game through 6 innings. And, Stroman had to give up a leadoff double to George Springer and was able to escape out of that first inning hole. And, yeah, there's not a whole lot of offense to speak of. Now, Giancarlo Stanton, through that first game, and I think there were some I think he heard some boo birds. I must say the crowds were electric for this first series. I don't remember it like that. I mean, I guess because of Soto and the hot start they're on, the crowd was very alive, more so than I would have thought. So good job, to the fans, really giving the team a lift. But Stanton strikes out with first and second, and so the strikeout struggles continue at that point for Giancarlo, as there weren't many opportunities for the Yankees on this day, just wasn't really there for them. Stroman continues to do well and also kind of just come up clutch throughout the day. You get a Jose Trevino double play. I want to bring up Trevino in the fact that, it's tough. He's also a guy that doesn't really strike out too, although he has a little bit this year, but that's not part of his game. So there's contact, but it leads to a lot of double plays, and he really doesn't, the at-bats haven't been great. I want to get to a point where I disagree with Boone in a couple innings later. But let's go to the seventh. Caleb Ferguson comes on. First batter he faces is Ernie Clement, who pinch hits for Kevin Biggio. So Clement, the righty, going against the lefty Ferguson, and Clement homers. You could have left Stroman in, but I get it. Stroman was at like high 90s at that point, so I'm not going to go crazy about it. It's too bad what happened, but Clement homers, makes it 1-0. That was all the Blue Jays would need. They would get a couple more runs, but Ferguson allows that homer. Dennis Santana finishes the inning. Now, Dennis Santana was called up because of the Loáisiga injury. He takes that spot on the roster. Bottom of the seventh comes around, and things for me get a little bit, I don't agree with some of Boone's decisions or indecisions. 2 outs, run around first. Trevor Richards, the righty, comes in to face John Birdie. Now, mind you, you have Oswaldo Cabrera and Austin Wells on the bench, as well as Trent Grisham, but I'm not going to include Trent Grisham in this exercise. But I know that Trevor Richards has reverse splits. In other words, Richards is, even though he's a right-handed pitcher, he is better versus lefties than righties. That said, down by 1, with the way Oswaldo, what was unfair to me, and I understand why John Birdie started, I do, but Oswaldo, he had such a good first opening road trip. Like, let the kid get that start. I know, luckily last year, he did start the home opener, so it's not like he hasn't had that before. He has that. But I thought, it's not as if Oswaldo has been terrible against lefties. He's been serviceable enough, whether he decides to bat lefty or righty. In this series, we saw Oswaldo in those situations bat right-handed. But they stick with Birdie, and he pops out. So that's one thing that was odd to me. 8th inning, Santana does the job. Then the bottom 8th rolls around. And then what was even more surprising was that Jose Trevino bats for himself against Richards with Austin Wells or Oswaldo, but really more likely Wells in the situation. And Trevino strikes out looking. To be fair, the pitch that he struck out on, and honestly, some of those pitches then at bat, he kind of did get screwed. Like the ump, this was a game where really this series, Angel Hernandez was the home plate ump in game 3. So that goes without saying how bad that went. But even game 1 wasn't good either. So Trevino kind of got fucked. But still, he really shouldn't have been batting there. And ultimately, Richards strikes out the side. We go to the 9th inning, and then it gets a little bit messy. With 1 out, Santana kind of runs out of gas. He was doing well, but he threw a lot of pitches. Kirk single, Varjo single. Nick Birdie comes on. And with Nick Birdie, he's got good stuff, but the command isn't always there. And it was a combination of Trevino kind of bothered me that inning, where they all go down as well. There was 3 wild pitches, but Trevino on a couple of them could have done a better job. And so if you're not going to hit, you got to do what you do best. And that's, be sound defensively. I didn't think that happened. And so there's a couple of runs that score on wild pitches. In the middle there, you get an Isaiah Kiner-Falefa walk, Kiner-Falefa making his quick return to Yankee Stadium, and George Springer walks. Ultimately, the Blue Jays take a 3-0 lead. So that kind of took the wind out of the comeback sails. But then another former Yankee, Chad Green, comes on for the save. And I'm telling you, Chad Green was ready to blow this game. And it almost happened. A little 2-out rally. Rizzo with a hard single to right. Volpe singles as well to the opposite field. And it leaves it up to Verdugo, who just gets under it. Almost tried for the game time 3-run homer. Just, you knew when he hit, at least I knew when he hit it, he didn't quite get it. And Verdugo just seems to tick off. Besides that home run against the Diamondbacks, not a whole lot of hard hits at all, even though I think that he'll turn it around. But anyway, Yankees lose 3-0 on the home opener. Not great, but they were able to bounce back in a pretty big way. Now, game 2 seemed like it was going to be a walk in the park, but the Blue Jays fought back, and really it made the Yankees have to use their high leverage relievers. A win is a win, and you take it, but it started out really good. the Yankees really beat up Kevin Gausman, who has been one of the best pitchers in baseball the last few years and has had a lot of success versus the Yanks. He did not have it at all. I'm almost wondering if there's something wrong with him health-wise. Although, with the weather being cold early, you never know. But he only goes 1 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 6 runs, 5 earned, 2 walks, and no strikeouts. Yankees were just battling him out. In the second inning, he had already thrown 51 pitches with only 1 out in the second inning. Like, they got to him pretty damn good. And so it put the Blue Jays behind. For Clark Schmidt in this one, okay, not great. 91 pitches in 4 1/3 innings. Like, these games 2 and 3 took forever. So many pitching changes in inning. Like, it was kind of a throwback, even though you have the clock. Didn't really matter. These were pretty long games. So, yeah, for Schmidt, he'll always keep you in it, and I credit him for that, but you need him to get you deeper into ball games, especially in this one where it's like you have a big lead, and he kind of lost the zone, 3 walks after he had no walks against the Astros. So, not a great start for Clark, but also it wasn't a disaster by any means. But, yeah, lineup here, you get Austin Wells back in the lineup as well as Oswaldo against the right-hander Gausman. But, yeah, Yankees kind of the offense was going early and often. 2-run homer Aaron Judge in the first inning. Then a couple batters later, Giancarlo Stanton homers to right field. Just over the right field wall. Springer leaps. They reviewed it, but it was a home run. It's that Yankee Stadium short porch. You'll take it every time. And that makes it 3-0 Yankees. Then at the bottom of the second, they score 3 more runs, and it's kind of the bottom of the order getting going. Volpe reaches on catcher's interference. He steals second. Austin Wells walks. Oswaldo with a single, so it leaves the bases loaded. And Gleyber Torres just kind of gets under it. It's a deep sac fly to give the Yankees a 4-0 lead. Then a pass ball allows Austin Wells to score. Then an RBI steal by Juan Soto. And that's it for Kevin Gausman. Yankees take a 6-0 lead. Then in the third, Blue Jays scratch out a run, a sac fly by Justin Turner. Top of the fourth, an RBI ground up by Kevin Kiermaier makes it 6-2. And then in the fifth, Schmidt, like I said, the pitch count got too high. Luke Weaver comes in, and Luke Weaver started out well, but by the end of it, he runs into trouble. In the bottom of the fifth, though, Anthony Rizzo down the right field line and fair for a 2-run homer. His first homer of the year. Riz seems like he's picking up, and that's good to see. Yanks, and these tack-on runs proved very important. Yankees take an 8-2 lead in the bottom of the sixth. Juan Soto with another RBI hit. It's an RBI single to score Gleyber Torres, so a 2-out rally there. Gives the Yanks a 9-2 lead. In the seventh, though, Weaver gets into some trouble. Vlad Guerrero homers. Daniel Vogelback gets an RBI double. Ernie Clement gets a sac fly. Makes it 9-5. And Victor Gonzalez would come in. And Victor Gonzalez did pretty well. Gets into a little bit of trouble. I mean, he ends up with a 2-out walk in the eighth, to which Ian Hamilton gets the out. But Ian Hamilton in the ninth inning had problems. And Hamilton, who's been so good for the Yanks, he's entitled to this 9-5 game, ninth inning. Turner single, Vogelback walk, ground out Clement, RBI double Davis Schneider, which puts it to 9-6 with second and third, with the tying run up. 9-6, second and third, 1 out. Clay Holmes has to come on. Alejandro Kirk rounds out, run scores. Then Kevin Biggio keeps it alive with an RBI single, but then George Springer strikes out. Holmes ends it. Yankees hold on to win 9-8. That got way too close for comfort. But what was good here in this game was good, just a lot of good stuff from the heart of the order. Judge, Soto, Stanton, Rizzo, like really, really coming through. So now we go to game 3. And it's always going to be tough. When Angel Hernandez is going to be the home plate ump, you're in for a long day. And I don't want to get too into Hernandez. How he's still a major league umpire after all these years. It's just, there's no accountability. But that's far beyond what I even want to discuss. But on the mound, Bowden Francis for the Blue Jays and Luis Hill for the Yankees. Now, the Yankees got to Francis. He got up to a good start, but then he lost his command, and by the third inning, Stanton just crushed him. That's what I think about this game. It was the Stanton grand slam. But Luis Hill, like, the stuff is there for him. There's a lot of potential. It's just he has to harness it. And a lot of his stat lines, he doesn't allow many hits, which is great, but the walks are always just a little bit too high. And there's also a lot of walks and strikeouts, which leads you to being taken out of the game early. So he goes 4 1/3, and he threw a lot of pitches. He threw 95. That's a lot. It's similar to what Schmidt did the night before. So I like Heel. I definitely think that, they should continue to of course, stick with him and hopefully he can grow within the rotation ideally, but it's going to lead to problems, especially with so many games in a row. Like, I don't think the Yankees, oh no, maybe there is. What am I talking about? I think there is an off day on Thursday, but there's a lot of games and it is a domino effect where the more you use the pen, maybe it won't hurt you on day 1, day 2, but eventually it will. So it's something that concerns me a little bit, but the offense again does come through, and the at-bats are pretty gritty. That's the good thing, is even in bad times, they're working counts. They're just tougher to face as a lineup. It's just not as easy for opposing pitchers, which is great. So rubber game. Second rubber game for the Yanks. So now they're 2-0 in rubber games after this result. But we go to the third inning. And this is where and stuff had already happened with Angel Hernandez involving Glaber. Glaber got fucked a couple of times, whether it's just balls and strikes or there was where Francis kind of steps off the mound. He probably should have been called for a it would have resulted in Glaber walking if they called it correctly. It was a full count, I believe, in the first inning, and then it was just a high pitch. They call it a strike. Just Angel Hernandez sucks. We all know this. But Luis Gil ends up getting frustrated with Hernandez, and kind of not deservedly so. He was throwing balls by the letter of the law, but he was getting a little bit frustrated and kind of losing his composure a little bit. And so it turns into a 2-out rally. Springer single, Guerrero hit by a pitch, Bichette walk, and a bases loaded walk to Alejandro Kirk. Luckily, though, he's able to strike out Kevin Biggio. And I believe he was down in the count. I think Biggio was ahead in the count. Yeah, 3-1. So this could have gotten out of hand, and Gil is able to at least limit the damage to 1. And the Yankees respond in the third. So you eventually have bases loaded, 2 out, and Anthony Rizzo, down 1-2 in the count, is able to draw a walk. A really, really nice at-bat for Riz. Ties it up at 1. And then the big blow of the game, Giancarlo Stanton. And Francis was just he was at the end of the line. You could tell. And full count, Stanton just blasts it to left field. Not one of his more prodigious, in terms of distance, 417 feet. But it felt, it was 110 exit velocity. Makes it 5-1. This was the big play of the game. And when Giancarlo is going, this team is so much better. And it's just the way it is. So the Yankees take a 5-1 lead. Then in the fifth, Gil gives up a 1-out double to Vlad Guerrero. So Jake Cousins comes on. He then allows an RBI double to Bo Bichette, who had a really nice game. That made it 5-2. Then in the sixth, Cousins, allows a single to Connor Falefa and a walk to Kiermaier. You can't do that. You can't 4-pitch walk Kiermaier. And so his day is done. Nick Birdie comes on. Not what could have been a very costly error by Oswaldo Cabrera. Only leads to 1 run scoring from the Blue Jays, luckily. Could have been better. Could have been much worse. And so it becomes 5-3 at that point. The Yankees score a run in the sixth thanks to a wild pitch. So Trevor Richards comes on for Tim Meza, and it's a wild pitch that allows Anthony Volpe to score. It's a big run to make it 6-3. Caleb Ferguson pitches a scoreless 7th inning. In the 8th inning, Ferguson starts it out, does his job. So a nice bounce back for Ferguson after a little bit of a struggle the outing before. Dennis Santana comes on and does a really good job. I like Santana's stuff for what it's worth. But at the bottom of the 8th, the Yankees score 2 more runs, and it's thanks to Volpe. Singles, he's still second, he's still third. You get an RBI single by Oswaldo Cabrera. And then after a balk, you get eventually a Juan Soto sac fly. So for Soto, good stuff. Numbers haven't been completely eye-popping since that amazing Astros series. But the last couple games, it's been better. Gives the Yankees an 8-3 lead. And what's good here is Clay Holmes was warming up. And so that does count for something, but he doesn't come in. Santana stays in, ends the game. Yankees win 8-3. Yankees record 8-2 which is tied for best in Major League Baseball with, I believe, the Pittsburgh Pirates. So that's kind of surprising. But yeah, record-wise, can't complain. 8-2 is really good stuff. They've won all 3 series, and now they're going to take on a Marlins team that finally today got their first win of the season. They had been 0-9. I'm very relieved that they got this win. I did not want to see the Marlins coming in at 0-10. Either way, the Marlins will be very hungry being 1-9, but they're much better than that. The Marlins, look, they did make the playoffs last year. They were a wild card team, and their roster isn't all that terrible. So don't let that record totally fool you. The Marlins will be throwing out 3 lefties, and like I said, that's I don't love that, because I do think that the Yankees, the way they're structured currently, match up better versus righties. So that's something to keep in mind. And on the Yankee side, a couple of southpaws as well. You need Nestor Cortez to turn around. So very curious to see how Nestor does tomorrow. Carlos Rodon, I want to see some more efficiency and a little bit more domination on his part, but he's been okay to start. And then the third game will be Marcus Stroman, who's been excellent through his first 2 outings. So yeah, this was good. Unfortunately, you lose Jonathan Loáisiga for the season. I do think that's gonna hurt the team, but hopefully they'll make up for it. The Bats come alive after a bit of a feeble effort in the home opener. And yeah, Giancarlo Stanton today gets that big grand slam. If he can, keep this going, it's really going to do the Yankees very, very well. So they're able to get the series win in their home opening series. They take the rubber game. They beat the Toronto Blue Jays, and now the Yankees sit at 8-2.